Hello everyone and welcome back.
Hi.
So, yes, with that the rest of your day is consumed with eating, drinking, socializing and sleeping.
Sounds like Aeverelle.
Arya, can you make me again just a check to see if you critically fail?
Oh,
Okay.
that's close.
Yeah, you
away.
you have a nightmare, you don't care.
MBD.
Toad's not bothered.
No.
Yeah, and yeah, with that you wake up the next day.
Do we head back to the circle? I feel like we can't really laze around for a couple of days.
Yeah, probably not.
Especially because we don't know when she'll be done.
Yeah.
Okay, you want to set off?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. If you run out of supplies, don't blame me.
Excuse me?
I said if you run out of supplies, don't blame me.
I mean, Vondal can just make us food.
I literally possess the ability to magically summon any supplies we need,
Yes.
at least in terms of food and water.
But do you have it equipped? That's the question.
Yes.
Right.
Of course I fucking do, otherwise I wouldn't have said that.
Yeah, so it literally basically like, takes you, I think it's like just over half a day.
Work to me.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you travel.
Yeah.
And I need to change the music track.
Yeah, and get that World of Warcraft picture back.
Okay. So, as you arrive towards the end of the day back at the Druid Circle, you notice that things are not remotely near how you left them.
Oh,
Fuck!
Uh-oh.
that's a good sign.
As you approach, you notice a large number of mounted figures basically standing outside of the essentially across the bridge that leads to the great hall of at the center of the Druid Circle. Everybody give me perception checks.
Oh my god,
Okay.
I see every
Oh
fucking
my god.
Yeah. They look like a number of figures, maybe 15 or 20 of them on horseback. But actually, as you look closer, Arya, V, and Vondal, you see that they are not men on horseback, but rather horsemen.
Oh, centaurs.
They are centaurs.
Fuck.
Do we know anything about
And-
centaurs in particular?
Give me a nature check. V, you can have advantage. As can Arya, in fact, for that.
Oh shit.
Yeah,
I didn't need it.
okay.
Not really.
Didn't need it.
Arya, you notice actually as well with your natural 20 on perception. This is not just a group of centaurs. This is a war host of centaurs. They are armored and armed to the teeth.
Oh shit.
And they are bearing an insignia that actually I don't think any of you would recognize.
I guess the question now is, do they look friendly?
For those who rolled your nature checks, you know that centaurs are denizens of the Feywild for the most part. They are occasionally found in the material plane, and they are very often roamers and their travels into the material plane tend to be at the behest of very often powerful individuals, and they look to quest because they are effectively like there is a great sort of like almost like knightly tradition in centaur culture, like being a noble and respected warrior is basically as high as you can get in centaur society. But yes, to see a war host of centaurs outside of the Feywild is something unheard of. Except, in fact, Arya is probably the only person who's ever heard of that. And you know that that's the only times that has really ever happened in history is when
bad shit is happening.
When bad shit is happening, generally riding alongside the war hosts of Corellan Lerethian himself.
No.
So yes, the last time that you heard of centaurs, a centaur war host marching in the material plane, is when the gods were still warring.
Holy shit. This bodes well.
So yeah, they are all standing outside the Druid Circle, armed to the teeth.
Well, we're allowed to be here, so it's fine. But I guess aside from that, is anything else different?
There seems to be a distinct absence of druids walking around. There are still like a handful of druids sort of posted outside, although they seem to be as much on guard as they are anything else.
I guess we should probably ask one of them.
They're basically all on the other side of the bridge from the centaurs.
Okay, we're crossing the bridge full of
So
centaurs.
you've got to go past the centaurs.
Boy.
We can talk to them. We know Sylvan. Assuming they know Sylvan.
Yes, they would speak Sylvan.
Yep, we got this. Nothing could possibly go wrong.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure.
Let's just walk up and ask what's wrong, or what's happening.
Okay. You're gonna walk up to the centaurs and talk to them?
Yep.
Okay.
Unless someone stops me.
No.
No, I'll go with you.
Okay. So, Kelariis and V are walking up to the centaurs, yes?
Yes.
We all
Is
are.
it just us?
That's
Yeah,
true,
I'll
we all
come
are.
with you.
Okay.
Mhm.
No.
As you walk towards the centaurs, you're not making any sort of attempt to be hidden.
No.
You approach them. They notice of you. They notice you, and several of them sort of put hands to weapons tentatively. And one centaur who seems to be particularly adorned in that he has basically the shoulder plates of his armor are a sort of a they're probably more gold than anything else, but the sort of the center part of his pauldrons has a like a green like a vibrant green tint to it. Perhaps like it looks almost like it might be made of gemstone, and beneath the surface of whatever material it is, there is a sigil of like a basically a how best to describe this? Basically, it is a flowering plant growing in front of a like a rising sun, which you could actually no, because none of you do know this because you've rolled on it previously.
Oh shit.
Yeah, and so it's a symbol that you can't identify, and as he moves, the sunlight catches it, and the insignia seems almost to animate in the sunlight. And yeah, he turns towards you, raises a hand, says, "Halt!" Who goes there? And no sooner does he finish and is expecting your answer, he begins to cast a spell.
Okay, don't interrupt that.
No.
Okay.
I guess we're just sort of gonna wait. We're simply here on business, and we were wondering what was going on. It's a rather unusual sight to see so many of our kind around here.
Okay. He seems about to reply when his spell finishes. You see, there's almost a small burst of magic that erupts from his hands and expands out for like about 30 feet. You can make me an Arcana check to find out what that was, but it provokes a reaction that you're not terribly happy with.
Oh god.
Your Arcana check tells you that was, I believe it's Detect Magic?
Oh boy.
Yeah, I think it's Detect Magic. Yeah, he casts Detect Magic, immediately seems surprised and draws his longsword, which essentially causes everybody else in the group to draw bows and swords and a myriad other weapons.
Oh fuck!
No.
Oh boy, oh boy.
Very bad.
It's okay, what we've done wrong. Can I still try to say something, or are we straight into initiative?
Well, you aren't really in initiative yet because nobody is attacking you. So give me a... Well, what do you want to say first?
Good question. I guess he's just sort of gonna be like, wait, we're not. What are we doing wrong? We don't want to fight you.
Okay. Yeah, with that, like he finishes drawing the sword, points it at you, turns to the others, and in Sylvan says, "The elf has it, but I there's well, the elf has it alongside some evil presence. Be cautious." And yeah, basically they effectively point all of their weapons essentially at Arya. And he turns to you and says, "Remain still, do not move."
What is it that you want from her? I'm not moving, but I'm talking.
Okay.
God, shut me up.
Give me a persuasion check.
Don't fail this me.
I'm
I
trying.
don't want to fight centaurs. No.
I don't think that would have ended in fighting centaurs.
He clearly sort of hears your question, and he is about to turn to address you, but seems to think better of it. And he basically says, "Place your belongings on the ground and step away from them."
What, all of us?
No, this is directed to Arya.
Can I shoot a look at Arya, like, Can you please do this?
Yeah, you can do that.
Yeah. Okay. I guess I do it.
Okay.
Yeah, because not doing it definitely gonna
Okay.
make us fight centaurs.
Okay, yeah, you place your backpack on the ground, and the centaur sort of he begins to move towards it when a loud voice cuts across the tension. As you hear Lysatis' voice, and she says, "What exactly is the meaning of this?"
It's a good fucking question.
Oh yeah, she probably says that in Elvish, because she doesn't actually speak Sylvan. So
Does the centaur speak Elvish?
the one in charge seems to, at least.
Okay.
I believe centaurs speak some. It's like Sylvan, Elvish, and Common, if not just Sylvan and Elvish. But this one definitely speaks Elvish. Lysatis basically says, "What is the meaning of this?" He turns towards her and says, "We sense the presence of the artifact. This one is carrying it." To which Lysatis responds, "Still, that is no reason to draw weapons, especially in this place."
Yeah, fuck you guys.
Right?
Nice Luka.
Okay. Despite his intimidating martial presence, Lysatis is fucking terrifying.
Good.
And she intimidates him into stepping off.
Sweet.
And basically, Lysatis walks towards you and, with a serious expression on her face, says, "The knife, give it to me."
I'm like,
Yeah,
okay.
Give it a fucking knife.
What do you give
I'm
her?
a little confused about why, but sure.
Actually, yeah, which knife?
The
The-
Wraith Shard.
No, I meant
Are we
I
sure
keep
it's that
giving you
knife?
my knife.
Oh,
What?
Because he said they had the artifact along with some dark power.
Yeah.
Oh.
So they refer, I
I'm
think
pretty sure they
mean
mean
thorn
the knife that I got last time.
Yeah, the
Okay.
thorn
Maybe.
knife.
Sorry.
So you turn over Elderthorn.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. You give it to Lysatis. Lysatis examines it for a moment, turns to the centaur and says, "I have it now, will you listen?" And he seems to... He sort of like crosses his arms and sort of turns away and sort of says, "Fine, I suppose we can talk about this." At which point Lysatis seems to sort of relax for a moment and be like, "Finally." At which point she turns back to you all and addresses you in common and basically says, "I'm sorry for that. It seems there has been some... Well, I suppose the closest thing it can come to is a misunderstanding." And she sort of motions to the knife and says, "Where did you find this?"
Well, it was on the person of a wizard who appeared to have taken
Warlock.
a warlock who had taken... can't remember her name again.
Valwyn.
Yeah.
Had taken... They picked on possession of a warlock who had taken Valwyn.
Lysatis looks concerned for a moment and says, "I see. Well, there will be time to discuss that later." And she sort of indicates it and it says, "I assume you don't know the significance of this."
Not at all.
Nope.
She nods and says, well, she probably says, "Would you mind relinquishing this to the control of the centaurs? They are very antsy about getting their hands on it.
Yes.
I see no problem.
Yeah, she turns back towards the centaur and again in Elvish, she says, "It is as I suspected, a simple misunderstanding. We are perfectly willing for you to part with this and return this to you." And he's the centaur sort of reaches out for it, and but Lysassa sort of flicks it away from him and says, "But first, I want you to honor your deal." At which point,
Deal.
the centaur looks grudgingly and sort of says, "Very well." Is about to open his mouth again, and Lysassa says, "Not to me, to her," and points to Arya.
What?
Huh?
The centaur turns towards you, Arya, and in Sylvan says, "Very well. If you are willing to give this up, the Summer Court is willing to grant you a boon."
Oh,
Oh shit.
a favor from the centaur.
No, from the summer court.
From the Summer Court,
shit.
which is significantly more important.
Yeah, way more
Shit.
important.
Oh.
A boon from the Summer Court.
Yes. From Titania and Oberon themselves.
Holy
Wow.
shit on the ice.
I mean, that is okay. Not what I expected. What can I ask for?
He almost is about to roll his eyes and then
Oh,
catches
please.
himself. And then he
That's a
says,
valid question. Shut up.
"That doesn't mean centaurs aren't assholes."
Yeah.
That's true.
Um,
Fair.
Basically, for them to even offer you something in return that they probably feel like they should just take is probably
Wow.
humiliating to the extreme for them.
Well, they need to get over themselves.
They do.
Yeah.
They're more
I was
stuck
the
up-
one-
they're more
They're-
stuck up themselves, their own asses, than high elves, and that's saying
Yeah.
something.
They're-
We fucking
they're-
killed the monsters that had that thing, so...
They're an incredibly proud race. Even more proud than the High Elves, yes.
Which I
Well,
didn't
that's
Wow.
saying something.
It is saying something. But yes, he says, my lady is willing to grant several wishes: wealth, power, any
Don't care.
any
Don't care.
any number of artifacts that that are in her possession. Her power is great, but
Would you call
She-
it radiance?
she will not. No, not really.
Damn it.
Darn.
No, she says her power is great, but what she is willing to give up for this is it has its limits.
What are the artifacts that she has in her that she'd be willing to part with?
He
Is one of
says
them a radiant damage bow?
he says there are many. What is it that you would wish?
Is there anything that does radiant damage, I guess?
Ask it without meta knowledge.
You need holy damage.
Holy weapon.
Holy damn-
Well, you need a weapon capable of destroying the undead.
Oh, right. Okay. Is there anything that effective against destroying undead creatures?
He considers you for a moment.
Look, bitch. This is my whole thing, okay?
Fuck's sake.
Actually, I've just had a thought.
Oh,
Oh, no.
no.
It's always bad.
Yeah.
Um,
The DM's
Either
having
really good or
thoughts.
really bad.
Okay.
Fuck.
He considers you for a moment before his eyes fall on your companion.
On V
No.
or on Lyra? Alright.
Oh shit.
Oh shit!
Hi, this is my my demigod.
Demigod.
Yeah.
This is my,
A demigod wolf. Demigod in wolf form.
He... Actually... Hang on.
Oh,
I need to check
Actually.
something.
The DM's having more thoughts. What is happening?
Seems like it's a good
I need
plan,
to check paladin abilities and exactly what the wording of certain paladin abilities is.
What?
I think I see where this is going.
Why is it not here? Where is oh, divine sense. Here we are.
Oh.
Paladin senses. They're
Yep.
tingling.
Yeah.
Thought so.
Tingling-a-ling.
Ting-a-ling-a-ling.
Oh my god.
Okay. So he looks at you for a second. His gaze falls on your companion, and he seems to focus for a moment and summon some energy from another realm, which Kelariis you recognize immediately as a paladin's divine sense.
Oh shit.
He turns back to you, Arya, nods and says, "I have something that may suit you, but it comes with a deal that you must agree to."
What is this deal?
Know that the artifact in question is not yours to keep. It would be considered a loan. It is far too powerful to remain in the hands of any one individual. There will come a time when you will be required to give it up to another with a task as worthy as yours. And at that time you must relinquish the item.
Alright. Fair enough.
He
What is
nods.
this task?
Oh, he says. Wait, do you mean his like the task that is to come, or your task?
No, I meant like the task to get the thing.
No. Like he's going to give you the item, but you can only have it in the knowledge that somebody else in the future may need it, and if the person with a worthy cause comes to you and requests it, you must give it to them.
Okay, got you. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. In which case he turns to Lysatus and in Elven says, "Is that satisfactory?" At which point Lysatus turns to you, Arya, and sort of goes, "Is it?"
So long as it can defeat the dead. I wish.
Yeah. She hands Elderthorn to the centaur. The centaur immediately begins to conjure a series of magical incantations, which you can Arcana check if you want. Yes, you no longer are in possession of Elderthorn. As he mutters a number of incantations, Elderthorn seems to glow briefly before disappearing from sight.
Rest in peace, Elderthorn.
It's in the Feywild now.
Yeah.
Probably, yeah.
You expect so, yes. And he says, he turns to you and says, I must return to my mistress and inform her of your request. I have no doubt that she will agree. However, it may take me a day or so.
Okay.
Shall I return here?
Yes. I assume we'll still be here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
listen
I
to
don't know
it,
where
like,
else
take
you
us
would
out of
go.
something.
In that case, he nods and says, "Very well." Turns to the other centaurs and in Sylvan says, "Our duty is done. We ride." And they all basically ride around in a big circle and head back the way you guys just came.
Bye bye.
Yeah, and with that, everything seems to return to relative silence. And the Sassus turns to all of you and says, well, that was thoroughly unpleasant.
Were they here just for the dagger?
So it would seem. They, it seems that whatever hole you unearthed that thing from made them aware.
It's a literal hole, so...
Yeah.
Actual hole.
Yeah.
Literally
So,
hole in the ground.
Literal.
I was wondering if any dwarf women were going to jump out of it, but apparently
Wow.
not.
Wow.
Yeah, Lasasa sort of like laughs at the fact that you unearthed it from a literal hole. And she says, well, I'm glad that was resolved without anybody resorting to violence. Centaurs are known to attack first and ask questions later, I'm afraid.
I was worried
Yeah,
for a
we could've
second.
taken them.
God damn it, Kelariis!
I probably could have taken them, Kelariis, 2K17.
Yeah, 20 centaurs.
The worst thing is
No,
that
it's fine.
20 centaurs.
20 centaurs versus 1 dragon. Fight.
Dragonborn.
Yes.
And not the Skyrim kind.
I'll take them. I'll do it.
Technically, they're on a bridge. You could have lightning breathed quite a lot of them.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, they were
Well, I
standing
would
at the
imagine
end
they're
of the
quite
bridge. Also, there's way more than 20 would fit into the lightning breath. But yes.
Damn.
Lasata says,
Still.
yeah, come inside. I'll get us all something to drink, and you can tell me about where your adventures have taken you, because goodness knows I've got a lot to talk about, and I'm sure you have too. Yeah, and Lasata sort of takes you inside.
Right.
After a few minutes, sort of Lasata returns and sort of sets a number of cups of tea down in front of you all, and you notice actually, like as Lasata comes back into the room, a younger-looking man in sort of similar sort of druid robes that you saw Lily wearing when you first met Lily, is sort of standing like in the doorframe, sort of as if he is going to be part of the conversation. At which point Lasata says, for goodness sake, Erin, either get a seat or go out.
You've made a good character, Helena.
She's pretty fun.
I love the Santis already.
At which point the person that she refers to as Erin comes in and sits down. Yeah, and yeah, he just grabs himself a cup of tea and just sort of sits there and sort of doesn't really say anything.
Okay.
Amazing.
At which point, yeah, Lasata sort of comes in, takes a seat, and is sort of like, okay then, so do you want to hear what I found first, or would you prefer to talk first?
Maybe we should go first. Our
Yeah.
swords
I
is
figure,
shorter.
I figure our talk more brief.
Very well. So you presumably tell the tale.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Lasata looks suitably disturbed by the story that you tell. And she says, "Wow, I'm glad you were able to deal with it. I can see now why it was such a struggle for the hunt to find anything, and it is sad that, whilst it is sad that many of them did not make it back, I am glad that I was given this task and that another patrol was not sent, because I do not think another patrol would have fared any better. You did well, considering the circumstances, I guess." She muses for a moment, and basically says, "Strange that such an artifact would be handed to, well, frankly, for all I can tell from your story, somebody who was bordering on the mad. But guess that is partly the Queen of Air and Darkness's way. She is known to manipulate her subjects, and is generally not very kind or forgiving to them."
I don't really see why anyone would look up to her in general, then.
She, much like many members of the Fae Court, she tends to rule by fear as much by love.
Yeah, somehow I feel it's not necessarily a choice.
No. It is almost certainly a matter of manipulation and control, as it is a genuine attachment to her. Yeah, basically, she says, yes, when the centaurs arrived and told me that a relic of the the war between the courts had surfaced once again, and that they'd been sent to retrieve it before it fell into the wrong hands, I thought that this was perhaps just another one of their crazy quests. But when I saw you arrive and them turn to you, I was beginning to think that it might be perhaps more than that. And as it turned out, you had found something. I must admit I am slightly concerned as to what they plan to do with it, but it is not my conflict to participate in. My place is here. She sort of indicates the hall, keeping the balance of the forest and nature. I have no love or affection for the dealings of the Sealy courts.
It's understandable.
Vondal looks thoroughly confused.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's Feywild stuff.
That's why he's confused.
Feywild politics.
Why can't your lands just be simple?
Just nod and pretend you understand.
It's not even their lands.
It's nice and simple being in a mountain.
I've never been in a mountain.
I mean, I don't know, dwarven politics is pretty goddamn complicated.
Yeah, but to Vondal it's not complicated.
No. But yeah, Arya, some of these things sort of like ring a bell with you. You know about like sort of very vaguely Fae Court politics, and basically that they're just a bunch of backstabbers, and generally like the Eladrin consider the Fae courts to basically be a bunch of nuisances and pretenders. Like they will make demands of the the free gods and be like, "Oh, we demand to be heard as citizens, or we'll rise up and cause mayhem." And Corellan basically just goes, "Yeah, whatever," because he basically doesn't have the time or the energy to deal with them most of the time. So he's just sort of like, "Oh yes, send your ambassadors in. I'll listen to them all," and then doesn't really sort of listen to them.
Wow.
But yeah, they like to cause trouble for the sake of causing trouble.
That's fey creatures.
True that. What?
Look.
Fuck you, Rob.
I mean, one of your companions was literally born to fey creatures, so just...
Yay.
Yeah, one of our
Look, I have the
companions
least
is-
complicated place I grew up in.
Yeah, yours is nice and simple.
We have no politics, just
Exactly.
a bunch of plant people.
You're just a bunch of plant people chilling in a grove. This is weird.
That's true.
Also, we have an elf in the party. That's never stopped me making fun of elves.
True.
Oh,
Anyway.
it's not like most elves, though.
Yeah, you're still an elf.
Yeah, it's still...
Like if you started making fun of dwarves, I was like, yeah, but that's just hill dwarves for you. You don't know the fucking difference.
Yeah, so... You get a brief explanation from Lysatis about sort of everything that had happened leading up to your arrival. At which point she turns and says, "That's partly why Erin is still here." And he sort of nods and says, "Yep, that's me." She turns back to the rest of you and sort of says, "So, I guess it's time for my end of the deal." And we perhaps need some slightly more serious music for this.
Rather than this, like, investigate the crime scene.
Yeah. Okay, this'll do. Yeah, so... Assassin sort of brings out a bunch of notes and basically says, "Thanks to the notes that you brought me from Buck, I've been able to piece together the web of occurrences that where basically every location that the race shards have been found, or any sign of the blight has ever been discovered. They all lead to some interesting conclusions." And she shows you two maps, one of which you recognize as sort of like a map of the relative area of the forest, which is the same one that you see on this. And yeah, she also pulls out another map, which seems to be just a regular old map, except when Lysatis pulls at it, there's been cuts made in it to make it larger in places and shorter in others. And she positions it over the top of the other one, and as she does so, you notice that all of her markers sort of line up between the two. And she basically says, "I won't bother explaining all of the intricate details of this, or we'd be here for a season. But you notice how all of these lines converge in one location. And as she points this out, you notice that it does. And the point at which they all converge is Silverbrook."
Oh shit.
And with that, she pulls away the map of the material plane, leaving behind this map of the Shadowfell. And she points to the same marker, and she says, the same hillside that Silverbrook is, the same formation that Silverbrook is built on. In the Feywild, there is in the Shadowfell, there is something similar. And she pulls out a book from the piles of papers and things that she has, and she says, from my research, as far as I can tell, it's a dormant volcano. Or at least what should be a dormant volcano. There's no telling with the Shadowfell. It could be anything under there. But my research suggests that it may well be some form of dormant volcano. Likely to have chambers underneath it, much in the same way that Silverbrook does. And she turns to the rest of you and says, from what you tell me of your first experience with this substance, it would make sense if this was the origin point. This clearly holds some importance to your shadowy figure. And she sort of,
as far as we know, he was skilled there.
She nods and says, it may be that perhaps he is anchored there, or perhaps there is just some hate that keeps him focused on this one place, which, whilst for the inhabitants of Silverbrook may not be the most comforting thing to learn, it is of use to us. It means that once we enter the Shadowfell, once you enter the Shadowfell, you will know exactly where to find him. And she puts the book down and says, with that in mind, I'd like to share a little bit of wisdom with you, if I may. Essentially, in my experience of entering, of places where the material plane coincides with the Shadowfell, there will be rifts. Whilst there are undoubtedly many in the forest, thanks to the effect of these wraith glass and other occurrences, walking into any of them within the boundaries of the forest would be like walking directly into the jaws of a waiting predator, so long as the creator of this wraith glass is alive. However, it is not without hope. I've been researching the Shadowfell for a long time, alongside someone I believe you actually know. From my understanding, you've met Professor Zale.
Indeed.
She nods and says, he and I have had a degree of history together. He is perhaps a little excitable for his age, but his logic cannot be faulted. From the information that he and I have both gathered on the activities in the Shadowfell, I believe I may be able to help you. If we can find a place where your passing between the planes would be masked by some other natural activity, I believe you would be able to enter relatively undetected, at least for a short time. It is likely that when you enter, the Wraith Glass itself will notify its creator of its location. But it would give you a certain head start. The phenomena in question I'm thinking of is something called the Conclave of Lost Souls.
That's comforting sounding.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
afraid I
also-
don't know very much about it, other than there is a huge amount of magical activity wherever it goes, and it seems to drift from place to place within the Shadowfell. Oh, excuse me. Yes. The Conclave of Lost Souls drifts from place to place within the Shadowfell. Finding a location where the Conclave is intersected with the material plane shouldn't be too difficult a job for somebody of my skill. And if you decide that is something that you wish to attempt, I can help you to the best of my ability. Once you're inside, you'll need to destroy any Wraith Shards that you found as quickly as possible to avoid them giving away your location. From what I can tell from these notes, and some experiments of my own, I believe the easiest way to destroy them will be to have to dispel their enchantments with magic, and then blast them with concentrated radiant energy. It will have to be quite strong to destroy the shards entirely, but once the enchantments upon them have been dispelled and they have been shattered, it is unlikely that they will be able to track you. And she pulls one last piece of paper and basically says, also from Buck's research on a cure, I believe I've established more about the transmission of this blight. And at this point she turns to V and sort of says, your friend Neve was very lucky. From what I can tell, once the corruption enters the host's bloodstream, there is no way of saving the individual.
But so was it in her bloodstream or not?
No, she is lucky. There is had it made its way into her circulatory system, there would have been no known way of saving them. But she was fortunate. I believe, given time, Buck and I will be able to manufacture some cure, and it should work on any blighted area in which the corruption is not fully taken hold. I believe that will include your grove.
Okay. Wait. Do you think that we could still save my mother?
Lysatis looks very serious for a moment and says, I cannot make any promises. I believe so.
Okay.
with that, she puts her notes away and waits to see if you have any questions.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Anybody?
How would we go about removing the enchantment on the wraith shards?
She explains to you sort of like the magical process of removing enchantments from
Okay.
things. In game mechanics terms, a high enough level of dispel magic will work.
Okay, I wasn't sure if it was something like
Yes.
weird because wraith shard.
No.
Yes.
Magic
Fair
Shard.
enough.
No, you merely need to cast dispel magic on the plane that the magic was cast.
Ah,
Because yeah, fundamentally the construction of the wraith shard makes it invulnerable and undispellable on anything other than the plane of its creation.
how fun.
Interesting. So it looks like we're taking a field trip to the Shadowfell.
Yes.
Well, I feel like
I
that was
think-
confirmed quite a while ago.
Yeah, I was like, I think we
Yeah, but
always
now it's
knew
like-
it comes to this.
Super confirmed.
Yes. It's getting very close.
Do we have, well, I guess between Vondal and I guess Arya, maybe, we'll have enough radiant power to blast it,
Blast it.
hopefully.
Yes.
Blast it.
You
Okay.
you may have to use a smite in conjunction with the power of freedom.
Yeah.
You're going to need like some outside help from Tritherion to be able to destroy it. But
Right.
you feel like you have mastered the ability enough. It
Okay.
probably would not have worked while the sword was still cursed. But now you
Yeah,
feel
I
like
imagine.
you feel like it would work now.
Okay. I like that.
So essentially, I'm just banning some magic, and then we're getting Kelariis to carry us once again.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, it's a
Well-
better plan than most we've come up with.
I'm just gonna do what I'm good at, and it's blasting shit with some smite.
Blasting shit with power of Tritherion.
Yup.
As you discuss this, Lysata sort of like listens to your plans, and when there's a sort of a lull in it briefly, she intervenes with planning for the destruction of the race shards is all well and good, but the important thing to remember is that as long as their creator is still holds sway, he will be able to create more, and the situation in the forest is unlikely to get any better as long as he is still alive. He will need to be destroyed.
Right.
Lysatus like sits there thinking for a moment and says, "It is unlikely that he will. It is unlikely that he will be unprepared for your arrival. From what you tell me about the attempts he has made on your life in the past, I expect he will be ready for you, and he will have amassed a decent-sized force to protect himself. This is something that you can either do by yourselves, or perhaps you have allies who are willing to help you. I am willing to lend any aid that I can if you ask. But it seems it is very much up to you to decide what you need for this task.
Hmm.
Do you feel you are ready?
No.
Well, we're gonna definitely have to have some rations, because I doubt we're gonna get them in the Shadowfell.
Oh yeah.
We have actually no idea how long we'll be in there.
We certainly have a lot to consider.
Yeah, so are you guys decided that you want to go out of game?
It's the point. It's the.
Yes.
This is
The-
the point of no return in game.
This is the section in my notes that is titled "Gather your party before venturing forth."
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it might be a good idea.
Well, I will read you the section in my notes below "Gather your party before venturing forth." If you decide to undertake this, this is your last chance to gather allies, items, and equipment before heading out. Whilst on the Shadowfell, you will face dangers like you have not seen before. The very environment itself is hostile, and once you arrive, it will not take long for your enemies to locate your presence. Remember to gather any wraith glass you intend to destroy before you depart. Once you have entered the Shadowfell, it is unlikely you will be able to leave and return the same way. Make your choices wisely.
Well, shit.
Personally, I think it might be a good idea to have some back.
Who though?
You cut out a bit there.
I think personally, it might be a good idea to have some allies before we go in. Anybody got an opinion on that?
Well, obviously. Well, you know,
The question is who?
exactly.
Well, we got my bays back in. Such as I don't want to bring them into any sort of danger. Terrifying. Ferrous is gonna do something to them.
Well, this is it. This is where we decide whether the third age starts with disaster or, like, does almost like delayed, I suppose.
Or is like delayed, I suppose.
It's not going to change age just because we like defeat a threat no one knew was a threat.
I know.
But if we fail, this is totally like the disastrous start to the third age.
Right? Or it'll become that way at least.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
alright. Let's try to make a list of people we think might be good to have to ask if they want to tag along.
okay. I mean, I don't suppose we can call Grim back in for this because
What's my
Good
first thought
lord.
as well?
I know. I was like, can we just bring him back?
I think it's a little bit late. He's like all the way home.
It would take a while for you to go and find him.
Well, we gotta go get that race shard from the capital anyway. We could like
Yeah.
send him a letter and then go get the shard from the capital.
He's been travelling for a month, and it will take you less that time than that to go and get it. Also, you could have someone bring it to you.
Yeah, I was gonna say we could
Yeah.
just send a letter and have them bring it.
Oh, jeez.
Alright, guys, who do you want in our SWAT team plus?
Squad team plus.
No, SWAT.
What
SWAT.
team? Even better.
Yeah. So Vondal, Kelariis,
Obviously
Me.
us.
Arya.
It's
Okay,
like, no,
who else?
one of us is
Lyra.
mutant, clearly.
Oh yeah,
Excuse me?
Lyra.
Yeah, there.
God. So we definitely want Ilorin and Smony. At least I do.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
We
I
could
mean,
ask
yeah,
Masatis as well. I mean,
Yeah.
she's kind of an
Hmm.
expert on the undead, so
Yeah. Can we have an expert on the Shadowfell with us when we go to the Shadowfell?
yeah.
That's
Right?
probably.
Tour
If
guide.
anyone's gonna know how to get out again.
She's also a 9th level druid, so that might help.
Yeah, that'd be really fucking helpful.
That'd
That's a
be
good
real
point.
nice.
How do we get out of the Shadowfell?
Yeah.
We're gonna find
When
out.
all said and done, how do we get out?
Yeah, there you go.
Well, we
Let's
should
ask
listen for the
Lassatus
riffs
that
that are
right
there.
now.
Well, yeah, you can ask Lassatus that. Yeah, Lassatus basically tells you that if you want to leave, leaving with fuck, I forgot my own bad guy's name. Leaving with the big bad dead is going to be significantly easier than leaving with him still alive.
Right, so we gotta kill him.
It is possible to leave without killing him, but basically once you've left, and if he is still alive, he is going to be wised up to how you got in before, so you're going to have to go through a whole nother process of working out how to get in without being detected.
Right, but we met someone who said that they were, well, they had connections to a powerful being and said that she would be back even if we killed her. How do we know that's not the case with him?
Because he is the being.
Yeah.
Oh.
I think the point is that
We
he is
gotta
the
kill
being.
him.
He owns her soul.
Yes. And you know, he is in service to Tharizdun, so he may come back if Tharizdun wants him to come back, if Tharizdun chooses to have all the power to summon that guy back.
Fuck you, Tharizdun.
You're not
Fuck
quite
him.
geared enough to kill a god yet.
I'll fight him.
Dumb.
Can we not call, like, the parent gods in?
The parent gods.
Yeah, because we totally have that ability to just do that whenever.
If you could do that, you wouldn't need to be the ones doing this.
Yeah, good point.
Anyone else we want in our SWAT team?
I'm trying to remember our allies.
We didn't really make anyone, like, if we didn't really make significant
Yeah.
allies in
I don't think there's anyone
Renshire
else.
or Rourke's Gate, I think.
Yeah.
Well, we did have the Kelariis' friends, but I'm not entirely sure how much,
I was
how
gonna
close
say,
we are with them.
How much, like, fighting prowess, like, some of them can offer.
Basically,
We could
There's
ask
no one
Lily to
else.
come with us, I guess.
Who?
Lily?
I mean, no offense to Lily, but like the last time we saw their powers, they could turn into a fox.
Hey, look, turning into a fox is pretty cool.
And Friendly
I know.
Fire, they're friends with Thunderwave.
yeah, don't forget the friendly fire, they're
Yeah.
friends with Thunderwave.
I love Lily, but I feel like they are slightly non-combat based.
Yeah,
Yeah.
quite possibly.
They're very smart, but
Also, we'd need the approval,
Pulling them into the
approval of their new
Shadowfell.
master. Also, yeah, they just get terrified immediately.
Yeah. Hmm.
We could ask Illiran's sister, I guess. I don't know if we're like super chill with her, but
I don't know if she's.
I love
Is
how
she-
do you
is
want
she a
to ask
combatant?
basically a princess? Do you want to
Yeah.
come to like hell with us?
Right?
Just come to the land of the dead.
Yeah,
and
it's
help
not
you-
it's not hell,
I
it's the
know
land
it's-
of the
I
dead.
know
They're
it's not
very
hell.
important difference.
Yeah,
It's basically
like. But no, I don't think she's super combat based either, really, is she?
No.
I mean, she's a wizard.
She is a
but-
powerful
a
wizard in
fucking
her own
wizard.
right. In her own right.
I
yes.
suppose.
yeah, God,
A-
guys.
As
she's
is
a
Professor
princess.
Zale.
Oh,
Good
that's
ask
true.
Zale.
Could ask
I don't know
Zale.
if we,
I
don't know
would
if
be
we
more
wanna bring-
comfortable asking Zale than asking the princess.
Yeah, the more.
Sure.
Yeah, first of all, not a princess. Second of all, also good with the Shadowfell.
Also, I don't want to have Ilran be awkward with his sister while we are saving the world.
Yeah, that's also a good point.
Family politics getting in
Yeah,
the way.
we don't want family problems getting in the way of saving the fucking world.
So, is that all the people we want? Is it us four, well, us five, Ilran, Simone, and Lysatus? Anyone else? We could ask the elf earlier we met. Like a
Alright.
day
Oh,
ago.
Christ.
You want to
Maybe
like
we should
join us in
recruit-
this thing?
I
We could
don't think
recruit
he'd be
those
up for that.
centaurs.
Can't wait.
I don't think the centaurs would be up for it. Also, they fucked off.
No, they're
Well,
coming back.
well, one of them is coming back at least.
I don't think he'd be up for that. I think him and his head up arseness have better things to be doing.
I mean, most of these people you don't know if they'll join you unless you ask.
Yeah.
That's
Mm.
true. I mean, to be fair,
But
we also
also,
don't know
we
if
want-
Elrond and Simone can even leave. So
Yeah. Also, we'd like people who we can trust and stuff, and like, I don't know.
Yeah.
As
That
nice
we
as that guy
know.
was, like pulling him to the Shadowfell with us, it's kind of, you know.
Mm.
sketch.
Like, at what level of friendship do you have to be? Do you have to be like? So do you have to be at to be like, yo?
Hey, you want to follow us into the land of the dead? No
I'm
big
wonder-
deal.
I'm
Do
wondering
you
if
do you want to march into almost certain death to defeat a world-ending evil with us?
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Hey
Like-
guys,
Yeah.
do you want to die
I'm
with us?
I'm almost wondering actually if Zale is someone we could ask, because more magic is not really going to be a bad thing.
We
True.
could definitely ask him when we ask him to send us the Wraith Shard.
Yeah, because as a wizard, he's not only a spellcaster but a very versatile one, and we need versatility because we don't know what we're dealing with. And then
Well,
that doubles
shall
our
we?
numbers as well.
Shall we get to contacting if that's what we've got?
Yep. I think we're sort of
Yeah.
good.
So we got Illyria and Simone,
Lesatus and Zale.
Satos and Zale.
Yeah.
Guys, this is really not a big army.
We're
It's
not
fine.
going army. We're doing
not-
SWAT Team
yeah.
Plus.
We're not an army. We're like the special forces.
SWAT Team 8.
The point is
Yeah.
that we essentially try to go into the Shadowfell undetected. Don't go into the Shadowfell undetected with like 100 people.
Yeah, we're the
Fine.
SAS. We're not the Royal Marines.
Okay.
Look, we even have the K9 unit. It's fine. Like, this is great.
We got
We're,
our
Yeah,
we're
roll
now
up
you
with
literally
can
all
clear it.
kitted out.
Oh yeah, this is great.
We're just gonna roll up with our car says
Yeah,
warning K9 unit.
We've got the K9 unit. We've got the K9 unit. We've got the heavy weapons specialist. We've got the combat medic.
I can't believe.
Although I do feel like this is a tiny bit Brooklyn Nine-Nine rather than SEAL Team 6.
Shut up.
I
Are
do
you
not
saying we're
understand
not
those
badass?
references.
I think Arya's Rosa.
These are references I don't get. Yeah, I think we've got our
Alright.
team.
Alrighty.
The dream team.
The dream team.
Team.
Dream
Hopefully.
team.
The A team.
The
Great.
A team.
Yeah.
Anyone else want to make any more like team-based jokes before we move on?
Lesatus chomps down on a cigar and says, I love it when a plan comes together.
She does not smoke.
That's very yeah.
That's an A-Team reference.
Yeah, God, Helena.
God.
Is that a movie?
It is a movie.
Yeah.
It's a
Actually,
very
it's a
nice movie.
TV series.
Yeah, the A team.
There's also a
It's got
movie.
T in it.
Yeah.
The
That's my knowledge of the A team.
the movie is nowhere near as good as the TV series.
That's fair.
Anyway,
This is irrelevant.
this
No,
is
it's
irrelevant.
This is incredibly relevant. So, you spend a large period of time talking about who to recruit. During which time, basically, at some point during the conversation, the elf who you've never really talked to sort of disappears off, and the Satyrs just doesn't seem to bat an eyelid about the fact that he's just disappeared.
Okay.
Right.
So, do you want to recruit your first member?
Yep.
Yeah.
Let's
Oh.
send out some messages.
Well, I was going to say, give me the speech.
Yeah,
what
we've gotta
do we
ask
say
them.
to
She's
the
right
Satyrs?
here.
Oh,
One of our potential recruits is right in front of us. Right now.
wow.
Well, since you offered your help before, we would like to take you up on that offer and have your help to aid us to defeat Neller in Shadowfell. It's not really speech.
No.
But
No.
look.
No, okay. Yeah, Lysatus nods and says, as far as my abilities will go, I will aid you.
Party
Plus
has been
one
expanded.
party member.
The Satyr has joined your party.
Fuck. Alright, is this the part where we send out letters?
I guess.
I
Yep.
guess they would have to come here, right?
Send the messages.
Yes. Or you can meet wherever you want to meet. You do need to go out of the forest to go to...
Oh, true.
Yeah, where are we actually going? Maybe we should all meet. Where are we actually going to do the thing? Maybe we should actually meet there.
Also, I think Zale would have to come quite a long way with the Rave Shard in tow.
Hmm.
Mm.
He did have ways to protect against it.
Okay.
So,
Okay, that's
so yeah, there's one particular elven village that is basically on the main road out of the forest. That is basically the closest elven settlement to the edge of the forest.
Silverbrook?
No, Silverberg is in the middle of the forest. Sort of.
No, it's basically the closest to the edge you can get.
Yeah, 'cause it's the first. Because if you think about it, we went into the forest, and Silverbrook was the
Oh
first
yeah, I
place.
guess
we
that's
Yeah.
true.
So are we meeting in Silverbrook?
Might as well. Two of them were already there.
That'd be
Well,
the
let's send
base
out
of
let's send out a letter to Zale ASAP,
Yeah.
because...
Yeah.
Well, I guess maybe he could use the teleportation thingy?
Oh,
we
yeah,
have
maybe.
clearance?
Maybe.
I mean, we still have to send the message.
He is a member of the Arcane Academy, so quite possibly.
So I suppose then we send the letter to Zale, and then we just head down to Silverbrook.
Yep.
We can update Simone and Ilran in person.
Yeah, sounds like a plan.
Okay.
We ride for Silverbrook.
Wait,
Well-
rations!
Oh yeah.
You've also got to wait for a day, at
Oh.
least.
Yeah,
We've
I
got to
still need
wait.
to
We've
get
got to wait
my-
a day, and then we've got to
Yeah.
go to Simandel and get some food.
Alright.
We're chilling out for a day.
Sweet.
The status tells you that the fastest way... Well, the Druid Circle doesn't really use messengers directly from the Druid Circle. They very often go to Simandel first.
Okay. I guess we're waiting for the day, going to Simandel, sending a message, getting some food,
Well,
going to Silverbrook.
if only you had a way of sending a message over a considerable distance.
Yeah, we've got
We
the
have-
fucking Raven.
The statue. Yep. By the way, I've been meaning to give that to Vondal, so hey, Vondal, you want the Raven statue? Because I had it, and I
Hooray!
don't have much to use it for, so...
Actually, don't we
That could only go
have
for a day.
a better way? And I say this out of character because there's no way V would know in character. Can't you, Vondal use sending?
Can he?
I think it's a cleric spell.
Give it a look.
I've got a spell called Sending.
Yeah, sending
Yeah, I do.
is a cleric spell, and
Yeah, I
the
found
range
it.
is limited, and you can just send people messages. It's only
Short-
25 words.
Yeah, a
but
short message of 25 words.
we don't
Hmm.
need like an essay to be like
Yeah.
fight with us.
It's a tweet.
It's a
That's
tweet.
a tweet.
Fuck.
Fuck, I've got to tweet Zale.
140 characters.
The worst thing is, it's like I just imagine like a spectral raven or something delivering it. So that's like the worst part. It's
Beautiful.
actually a fucking bird.
Yep.
It wouldn't be.
Delivering
It wouldn't be if we
tweets.
used sending. It would just be like boop in your mind.
Is Shadowfell one word?
https://
Quick, is Shadowfell one word?
140
Yeah.
characters. Just do 140 characters.
Oh my god.
I'm trying to actually count words.
Write me a legit tweet.
Oh my god.
Tweet Rob right
I'm gonna
now.
tweet Rob.
Ask Zale.
Tweet him on Twitter.
No,
Actually
you
do
did it
it.
wrong.
Oh, fucking hell. I was trying to count words in my head and now I forgot what words I was using. Fuck.
Stop counting. Just tweet Rob.
Literally just
Fine,
tweet
I'll
him.
fucking tweet.
Literally
Fine.
tweet
Oh
Rob.
no,
I'll literally-
the
if
the
it'll make
limit
you
has been
happy.
doubled now.
Look, we
If
are.
it'll make you fucking happy,
Oh
I'll
my
legit
God.
tweet Rob right now.
We're
Wait, I've
using
gotta see
current
this.
technology, guys.
Yeah.
I've gotta
Fuck's
see this
sake.
happen.
With that out of the way. So, the Druid Circle are happy to put you up for 24, 36 hours whilst you wait for this thing. Oh, actually, it'll probably be a bit more than that because they've got to travel away and then they've got to travel back. So, maybe 3 days?
Okay.
Okay.
I mean, fine.
So, I need to actually check something as well. Okay. I guess I don't really need you to do anything other than make saves, Arya.
Okay.
Just give me 3 saves off the bat. Cool. Yeah, the chances of you failing are phenomenally low, so
Yes, they
It's
are.
about 5%.
it is about 5%. You are correct. Okie dokie. Okay, right. Yeah, so a number of days pass. You sort of talk more in depth about where you're going to get your supplies from and what preparations you're going to make, and generally how everything is going to go down when you arrive. About probably in the morning of the 3rd day, the centaur arrives once more, carrying basically a gilded silverwood case,
Wow.
Oh shit.
Fancy.
and as he opens the case, the centaur sort of bows reverentially, not to you but the case.
Okay.
Oh.
And he's after as he opens it, you can see that basically inside the case is basically a bow of what is essentially like burnished gold. It's halfway between a metal and wood. Much like the way Elderthorn was completely natural but had a hardness of steel. This is a bow that would almost seem to be made out of like metal, but it feels like wood to the touch, and it bends much like you would expect a wooden bow to bend. And he said, after his bow, he looks up to you and he says, once you take up this bow, you will understand what a great honor this is.
Okay.
And I will present it to you.
Oh.
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 The moment you touch the bow, almost probably 700 years of history passes simultaneously through your mind. Most of it is a blur, but the first part is not. And the first part is basically what it says in its description.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I can see why they're so attached. Arya's probably going to treat this as if it's literally made of gold.
Because it pretty much is.
Pretty much is.
I
Holy
think it's
shit.
made of something more valuable than gold, surely.
Well, it was made for Malone. So if that
Wow.
Yeah,
sort
that's
of
definitely more valuable
reference.
than it. I think that's more valuable than 10 times its weight in gold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially to a follower of Melora.
Yes. It was a weapon that was intended to be wielded by a god.
Okay.
It's a bit better than freedom.
Hey now.
Sorry, freedom.
Freedom's also...
Freedom was wielded by Tretherian.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
gonna
Freedom's
say.
tongue was wielded by Tretherian.
Excuse you.
What?
Look, freedom is a part of that.
Guys,
Okay?
stop
just saying.
fighting!
I'm just saying.
Look, I'm not saying my magical weapon is better. I'm just saying that it was made for my deity, which
No,
makes
yeah,
it
it's-
better in my eye.
No, yeah, I totally get that.
But
I am
Kelariis
arguing
would be like, holy shit, freedom.
Well, exactly.
Because it's, Tritharians. Anyway,
Yeah.
this is irrelevant.
Moving
Yes.
This bow is, like, really fucking important.
Yes. It is also quite powerful.
Yes.
on. Hello.
So yes, you very quickly become familiar with it. And after a while, yeah, sort of the centaur sort of closes the case, prepares to take it away, and says, "Remember what I told you. One day another with a worthy quest will come to take this from you, and you must relinquish it."
I understand. I shall do that if the time comes.
Yeah. He nods and departs. Right, so I think with that we will take another short break, and we will see about arranging the squad.
Arranging squad.
Arranging the squad.
Arranging
Squad.
the squad.
So we will see you shortly.
Squad goals.